Okay, good morning, everybody. Michael, Matt here. Just got 1 or 2 days left, getting ready for the big climb up Kilimanjaro in Africa in a couple days to raise money for the minor seminary in Sagita. Thank you so much for helping sponsor. If you still want to sponsor, there is still time to sponsor us for doing this beautiful missionary work in Africa. I just wanted to talk about Bishop Sample briefly today, a statement that just came out. I've been talking about, I guess to start things off, I would like to say how grateful I am to the, I don't want to get hit by a car here, to the Society of St. Pius X for having really ripped the mask off of synodality. What do I mean by that? We talked about Bishop Paprocki yesterday, who's a good bishop, but again, no interest whatsoever in listening to the traditional Catholics. So I want to say, Bishop Sample has come out now and he's made a big statement. I don't know why everybody thinks they need to make this big statement about the SSPX. It's kind of funny because nothing's actually changed. This is the way it's been for a long time with the society since '88. Like them or hate them, it's where they've always been. But now suddenly, because it's very much in the news, all the bishops are getting dressed up and making dramatic statements on TV about the threat of the Society of St. Pius X. Don't you know? Bishop Sample, can't think of his first name. I don't know much about him. And last time I heard, I know he's conservative, but I was really disappointed during Holy Week when he was one of these guys that comes out and says, yeah, everybody's anti-Semitic and we're so sorry for being anti-Semites in the Catholic Church, you know. Basically, the scripture itself is anti-Semitic, of course, according to the ADL. So he's one of those guys kind of playing along with things. But conservative, supported the Latin Mass a little bit when it was politically correct to do so. But now here he comes with this statement. And here's where I'm really so grateful to the society for having outed all this. They've really ripped the mask off of synodality. Precisely because he is more conservative, right? So I want to give you a little bit of this, and I want you to observe the tone of Bishop Sample when he's talking about traditionalists. I mean, it's very top-down, very authoritative. It's not synodal at all. Check this out.
I think, the Society of St. Pius X, has seen themselves as sort of the final arbiters of what is Catholic. But they're doing that apart from the rest of the church, and that's the danger. They're in great danger because they're off the rails, so to speak. I know in their own minds, and I know maybe some of those folks are listening to me right now are angry with what I'm saying and don't accept what I'm saying. But to me, it's the truth. They are making themselves the determinators of what is Catholic, what is the faith, what is the church. And you can't do that apart from the rest of the church. And I think they see themselves as the remnant. There's I don't know if it's still around, there's a newspaper out there called The Remnant, which is, for the Lefebvrite, we call them because Archbishop Lefebvre was the founder of this society. They're the remnant, they're the faithful remnant, and they see themselves as the faithful remnant, even hearkening back to the Old Testament and, that small element, of the Israelites that remained faithful is the faithful remnant. And that it's like the rest of the church, the rest of the world is wrong.
He's not sure if the remnant exists anymore. I love that. They've been doing it forever. Just pretend like we don't exist. Of course, he knows we do, but whatever. But the tone, did you notice the tone there? I have been covering the Synod on Synodality forever as a journalist inside the Vatican, in the Vatican press office, and I've always been struck by it doesn't matter what the complaint is. The Vatican, the whole idea of synodality is we must listen to the people, the marginalized, the folks. Maybe the Society of St. Pius X is just confused to Bishop Sample. Couldn't you kind of listen to them and hear them out, give them a hearing rather than going out and just like gotcha journalism, gotcha bishoping, I should say, smacking them down on YouTube? What about giving them a listen? Hearing them out, right? Wouldn't that be synodal? No, you don't want to be synodal because synodality is B as in B, S as in S, isn't it? So in Rome, they come up and the people, so the marginalized say, we want to have gay priests, we want to have the catechism changed on homosexual acts, we want to have women priests, we want to have everything. What does the Vatican do? What do the bishops do? What do people like Bishop Sample do in the Vatican? In that case, they say, yes, go on. Yeah. Well, your rightful aspirations are beautiful, and the Catholic Church is ready to accompany you wherever your journey takes you. We will change for you, right? That's the attitude of synodality. Now, with Bishop Sample, you notice, when the traditional Catholics say, we want to stay Catholic, we don't want to change anything, And what is Bishop Sample's attitude? That is very dangerous. You cannot. I am not listening to you. I'm going to warn my people, stay away. Stay away from that from the Society of St. Pius X. Stay away from those traditionalists. Okay, friends, any child can see this. What happened to synodality? Where'd it go?
Folks, really, please don't be in that position. You're really in danger by a certain arrogance and pride.
It's not like there isn't a crisis in the church, Bishop Sample. We're afraid to put our children in your schools because they're dens of theological heterodoxy. We're afraid of half the priests in the church now because of the clerical sex pedophilia crisis. Out of control, so much so the Vatican has special conferences to address it. I've been there, I've attended them. We're not making it up. So priests are pretty terrifying. Bishops are covering up for all this sexual abuse of children and seminarians, right? And you're acting like it's 1950 and there isn't a problem in the church. The churches are all closing, you know that, right? I don't know how your diocese is, Bishop Sample, but here in the Midwest, churches are closing all over the place. Consolidated parish, all over I can't keep people in the pews anymore. While you shut down the Latin Mass, God knows why, in which the pews were packed out. So there's a real crisis in the church. Everybody knows it. So why are you so upset with the Society of St. Pius X again? Because they're not saying anything. And here's the other thing. I'll close on this, Excellency. Certainly you must know the truth here. I know you're a Novus Ordo bishop, but you must have enough formation to understand the arguments here. It's very simple. We didn't change anything. The society didn't change anything. Archbishop Lefebvre didn't change anything. So follow me here, Your Excellency. For 1,965 years, the church taught one thing. The church's doctrine was unchanged. The church's moral theology was unchanged. The church's liturgy was unchanged for nearly 2,000 years. All of a sudden, there's massive upheaval in the church and everything changes. From the moment that everything changes, you have mass defection. You have what Pope John Paul called the silent apostasy. Apostasy in the church. Church closings, sexual abuse, scandal, priest crisis shortage, right? Everything goes wrong from that moment on. And so what you have with your sheep in the Society of St. Pius X, or not, what you have with traditional Catholics are people who are just backing away. They're going, what happened to our church, man? Everything's weird. All the priests are gay. The bishops are covering up for all this horrible stuff. The theology is really wrong. Even the Pope can't rein in the liturgy, no matter how hard they try to rein it in. It's crazy. It's all become Protestantized. We're just going to go back to the way it always was. So when you say they think that they get to say what's Catholic and what's... No, you know they're not doing that. Excellency, that's uncharitable. You know they're not doing that. They're not saying this is what we think is Catholic. They're saying this is what was Catholic. For nearly 2,000 years, certainly for 1,965 years, 69 years before everything changed. This is what Catholic was. This is what we learned in Catholic school, Excellency. The nuns and priests of the Catholic Church. I went 12 years before I went to Catholic college, but 12 years listening and learning from Catholic nuns. This is what we learned from our mothers and fathers. This is what we imbued with our mother's breast milk about what is Catholic. That's how we learned what Catholic is. So you guys, you are the ones who are coming up with something brand new. You're changing everything. Now you're even getting ready to bless gay unions. Changing everything. Communion in the hand, the table altar, everything has changed. You're the ones who are saying, we know what's Catholic and we're going to change it all and call it Catholic. And if you don't submit, we're going to kick you out of the church. Okay, don't you see? When you're standing on tradition, you're not making anything up. You're not inventing anything. You're standing on 2,000 years of tradition. Right down to what Mass you go, the traditional Latin Mass. That's how old it is. It's the oldest rite in the Catholic Church. The Society of St. Pius X saying, can we please just stay with what worked? Because everything you guys are doing is destroying the church, destroying the faith, running people out of the pews. And so the hubris, Bishop Sample, in the middle of this crisis in the church, the hubris, that you would come out and attack them when you guys got a serious first-class mess on your hands, crisis on your hands. Nothing you're doing is working, Your Excellency. And then you add to the scandal by piling on the people like us, who cannot even, as I say, we can't even put our kids in your schools because the heterodoxy is so thick, the abuse is so rampant. We cannot even put our children in your Catholic schools, and yet we're the ones with the problem here. The Society of St. Pius X is the threat in the church today. You, Your Excellency, have got to be kidding me.